What if Qui-Gon trained Anakin, but he still turned to the dark side? Let's get right into it. Our story begins on Naboo as Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi are fighting the Sith Lord Darth Maul together, as master and apprentice. Qui-Gon understands how important this duel is, not only for his own life, but for the future of the galaxy. The Sith have returned, and Qui-Gon believes that fate brought him and Anakin Skywalker together, so Anakin could be trained to defeat the Sith in due time. The three combatants moved through the plasma refinery, and Maul had one goal in mind: separate the Jedi. They were a formidable force together, but Maul knew that if he could get them alone, he could win. He tried kicking Obi-Wan down a few levels, but Obi-Wan was able to hold on, and now Maul was being pushed back into the ray shield doors by both Jedi. The doors closed, separating Maul from Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and Maul re-evaluated his situation. He was moving into close-quarter combat with both of the Jedi. It would be an even match. He would need to prove himself to Sidious. Qui-Gon helped Obi-Wan calm himself, and when the doors opened, the Jedi ran at the Sith Lord, striking their lightsabers together once more. As they moved around the seemingly never-ending shaft, Maul got Qui-Gon alone, hitting him in the face with his lightsaber hilt. He went in for a killing stab, but Obi-Wan threw his lightsaber from across the way, slashing Maul across the face. The Sith apprentice tried to recover, but Qui-Gon stabbed forward instead, and Maul fell to his knees with a surprised gasp as Qui-Gon plunged his blade into his chest. And Maul died here, as the Jedi lived on instead. And this duel would shift the fates of many in the galaxy, as Anakin Skywalker would return to Coruscant with Qui-Gon, and he would make his intentions clear to the Jedi. Either he would train Anakin here on Coruscant, or he would leave the Order and do it anyway. The Council decided they would all be better off if they were able to monitor this training, and so Yoda begrudgingly allowed this. Qui-Gon would become Anakin's master, while Obi-Wan passed his trials and officially became a Jedi Knight. And so, as the Sith were in recovery mode, as Sidious shifted his attention to Dooku, the Jedi were thought to be in good hands, with Qui-Gon training Anakin. And the first few years would be extremely prosperous for the young boy. Qui-Gon was the father Anakin always wanted, and it helped to fill the void without his mother being with him any longer. Qui-Gon understood what Anakin needed, and so he embraced this training much different than he did with Obi-Wan or Padawans before. Anakin needed a friend, a father, just as much as he needed a Jedi teacher, and Qui-Gon would slowly begin shifting his methods with Anakin to a very emotional connection, trying to teach Anakin to learn how to properly deal with his emotions. Qui-Gon often reminded Anakin that he would not be around forever. No one would. Though Qui-Gon did know that he would become a Force spirit after death, he kept that information hidden. Qui-Gon's unconventional approach to the Force, which did emphasize intuition and living in the moment, it resonated deeply with Anakin. Together, they would hone Anakin's early signs of the Force into showing him how to wield it for good, and soon they would embark on various missions together, with Qui-Gon guiding Anakin through the complexities of the galaxy, showing him that even inside the Republic, a lot of planets struggle to prosper. Corruption and greed haunt the outer systems of the Republic, but they could not always help in the ideal ways, and that was one of the many challenges of being a Jedi. Anakin would quickly thrive under Master Jin, and Qui-Gon would help Anakin hone this skill by integrating Jedi teachings with things Anakin already knew, like racing and mechanical building. Qui-Gon would try to make the training a little bit more fun sometimes. He would take Anakin on a couple missions to an abandoned pod racing track deep in Malastare, and he would have the boy race alone with his eyes closed, relying on his connection to the Force. He would even have Anakin build a pod using the Force to move the parts around, making it all fun and productive. And as Anakin would mature into his mid-teens, Qui-Gon's wisdom and experience would earn the Jedi Master a position on the Jedi Council. Initially, Qui-Gon was reluctant to accept, wary of the Council's conservative nature. It wasn't the first time that Yoda discussed being on the Council with him, but usually it was Yoda and the others on the Council who shut this idea down. But as they saw how Qui-Gon took Obi-Wan from nearly being a failed youngling to a great Jedi Knight, and now his teachings with Anakin, they wanted Qui-Gon's expertise on the Council. And Qui-Gon, thinking he could bring real change, would ultimately agree, believing he could influence positive change from within. This new role, however, would demand so much of his time and focus, causing his attention to shift away from Anakin more than Qui-Gon would have liked. He would have Anakin go on some extra missions with Obi-Wan whenever he was needed with the Council, and Anakin would begin to form a bond with Obi-Wan, but more so as friends than the familial one he had with Qui-Gon. The the once close and dynamic relationship between Jin and Skywalker would begin to strain as Qui-Gon became increasingly consumed by the bureaucratic responsibilities and political intricacies of the Council. Unfortunately, Qui-Gon quickly began to fall into the same trap that so many Council members before him fell into: complacency. Qui-Gon knew of the issues between the Jedi and the Republic, but once on the Council, he became so busy, so overwhelmed at times, that he lost his ways in trying to bring change. Like Plo Koon, Shaak Ti, Yaddle, so many others, Qui-Gon just fell in line with the Council, and he didn't even realize that this was souring his relationship with his student. Anakin always admired Qui-Gon because he was different than the other Jedi, but now Anakin began to wonder if Qui-Gon regretted taking him as a student. Anakin, now in his late teens, felt the deep connection he once shared with Qui-Gon fade as his master adopted a more traditional and cautious approach, aligning with the Council's stances, whether he knew he was doing it or not. Anakin, struggling with his emotions and feeling neglected, harbored some resentment that he didn't want to have, and he didn't know who to talk to other than Chancellor Palpatine, who was always inviting. Anakin's need for guidance and understanding would quickly shift from Qui-Gon to Palpatine. And this shift from Qui-Gon to Palpatine was never more prominent than the day Anakin had his first nightmare about his mother. He went to tell Qui-Gon about it that very morning, but his master said that he had a council meeting to attend to, and he promised Anakin that the two of them would talk immediately after. Qui-Gon gave his student a warm smile, not realizing how desperate Anakin was. And as Qui-Gon went to the council chambers, Anakin went to Palpatine's office. He told the Chancellor about his nightmare, and Palpatine saw an opportunity here. He had a way to gain Anakin's trust for good. Palpatine told Anakin it is their responsibility to help those in need, so he gifted Anakin his personal shuttle for the day, along with his royal guard, sending Anakin to Tatooine to rescue his mother. Anakin was extremely grateful for this, and he felt like Palpatine truly cared for him. And because Anakin went after his mother after the first nightmare, instead of waiting for them to pile up, he and the royal guards arrived at the Lars homestead right as the Tusken raid was going on. Anakin and the guards jumped in to defend the people here, and after just a few minutes of showing off their weapons, the Tuskens retreated. Shmi, who was now part of the Lars family, saw Anakin, and the two of them shared a wonderful embrace. After a meal together where they caught up, and Anakin felt happier than ever, he contacted Palpatine with the very good news. And Palpatine had even more good news for Anakin as well. He told young Skywalker that he has purchased an apartment for Shmi and the Lars family. They can live on Coruscant if they so choose. Anakin was so thankful to Palpatine. This man was so kind, and he never asked for anything in return. Anakin believed Palpatine was acting more like a Jedi than his own master was recently, and soon enough, Shmi and the Lars would accept this offer, moving to Coruscant, where an apartment was paid for and an array of local job offers were made available to them. While helping the Lars family move in, Anakin found out a crazy coincidence about this apartment. It was just one floor below the apartment of Padme Amidala. Anakin couldn't believe his luck as he ran into his old friend, and the two of them caught up while Anakin tried to keep his cool. Ultimately, Palpatine told Anakin this would all be their little secret, and Anakin would soon be back in the temple. When Qui-Gon asked Anakin what he wanted to discuss the other day, Anakin said it was nothing, and the two of them continued to drift apart. When the Clone Wars eventually came around, Qui-Gon agreed with the Council's idea that the Jedi must lead the clones into battle against the Separatists. The old version of him may have disagreed, but somewhere along the way, Qui-Gon lost himself, blending in with the rest of the Jedi. And as the war got underway, Anakin was made a Jedi Knight, and he was able to lead his own battalion of clones, just like Qui-Gon and his new friend, Obi-Wan. The war would go on, and Palpatine would continue to be the new father figure for Anakin, slowly convincing Anakin that the Jedi played a large role in the war dragging on. Padme and Anakin would end up on missions together, whether it was for protection or negotiation, and as expected, they fell in love, marrying each other in secret. Qui-Gon and Anakin would still talk quite a bit, and their relationship actually got a bit better during the war, and Qui-Gon thought everything was alright. He could tell that his relationship with Anakin was different, but he thought it was due to him growing up, learning to let go, and also just dealing with the war. But the breaking point for their relationship with the Jedi would come late in the war. A Separatist spy broke into the Jedi Temple, stealing a datapad containing upcoming battle plans. the spy was caught and chased through Coruscant by a group of Jedi Knights. And all of this was a secret plot by Palpatine. He hired this spy to get caught by the Jedi, and in the ensuing chase across Coruscant, the spy pretended to have their speeder hit by the Jedi, crashing hard into the ground, right into the Republic Aid Center that Shmi Skywalker was working at. Shmi loved helping people during this war, and the stolen speeder crashed right into her workplace, killing her and many of the injured civilians inside. And Palpatine would have the reports of this frame it to make it look like the Jedi were responsible for this crash. When Anakin heard about this, he was completely heartbroken. And because Anakin and Palpatine kept this a secret from the Jedi, Anakin could only talk to Palpatine about his mother's death, and the Chancellor did what he does best, twisting his words to not only comfort Anakin, but to sow more division between him and the Jedi Order. And from here, things would only escalate for Sidious in his plans. The war would drag on. Palpatine would make sure that Anakin was stuck in the Outer Rim sieges on mission after mission, separating him from Qui-Gon and Padme. When it came to the final days and the attack on Coruscant was executed, Qui-Gon was fighting on the surface, while Anakin and Obi-Wan fought Dooku, and Palpatine goaded Anakin into using the darkness to kill Dooku. That night, as it seemed like the war would soon be coming to an end, Palpatine put the nail in the coffin by influencing Anakin's fears as he slept, showing him visions of Padme dying due to the Jedi, just like how Anakin blamed the Jedi for participating in the war for his mother's death. Anakin would see lightsabers, he would see Padme screaming in pain, and events would play out with Anakin's frustration growing over time, with him feeling like only Palpatine could truly listen to him, until Grievous was located. The Council would ultimately decide to send Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to Utapau, the two Jedi who killed Darth Maul. The two Jedi would end this war today, and Anakin was sent to spy on the Chancellor. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan did argue heavily not to have Anakin spy on a friend, but they were overruled by the rest of the Council. And so as Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were fighting Grievous, Palpatine revealed the truth to Anakin. He is the Sith Lord who knows the way to discover the power to stop people from dying. Anakin would soon commit himself to the dark side in a moment of desperation, helping Palpatine kill a Jedi squad led by Mace Windu that came to arrest him. And Sidious deemed Anakin as his new apprentice, telling Anakin that in order to save Padme, they must wipe out the Jedi Order, including his master, Qui-Gon Jinn, so the Jedi cannot be the ones that kill her, like they did with his mother. So Order 66 was executed, and Anakin stormed the temple with the 501st behind him. The turn to the dark was felt too late by almost every single one of the Jedi, and they all fell to their clone troopers in battle. But on Utapau, Qui-Gon felt Anakin's turn as soon as it happened, and he was able to guide Obi-Wan to safety right before the clones opened fire. They were safe, but they were left to wonder what happened and what they are supposed to do now. And after waiting for so long, letting the clones clear out and begin entering into gunships to search the planet, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were able to steal a couple of Powin ships, jumping to hyperspace for Coruscant. Once back on the planet, the two of them found Yoda and Bail Organa, and while the Emperor was giving his speech about his new empire, the three Jedi entered into the Jedi Temple, and they saw the horror of it all. It was a harsh reality of how far the Jedi fell, especially for Qui-Gon. For the first time in years, Qui-Gon saw how far he fell from the Jedi that he once wanted to be, and as they checked the security footage, Qui-Gon saw that he failed his student, and when Anakin felt like he couldn't come to Qui-Gon, he turned to the dark. As the Jedi watched Anakin fighting Jedi Masters, Qui-Gon switched the security recordings to the Council chambers. They watched Anakin enter, igniting his lightsaber on the younglings. But after a moment, Anakin put the saber away, and he told these children to stay hidden. This was shocking, but it gave Qui-Gon some hope. There's still good in his student. When Anakin entered the Council chambers, he did ignite his blade, and he was intent on cutting down the younglings, but as they looked to him in fear, Anakin saw himself in all of them. They were all scared children, and in that moment, Anakin remembered his mother. He remembered Qui-Gon, and all the happy moments growing up. Anakin didn't recognize himself, and in that moment, he turned around, refusing to kill any Jedi that couldn't fight for themselves. There was still some light in him, after all, thanks to Qui-Gon's training. And Qui-Gon, Yoda, and Obi-Wan discussed what to do next, and Qui-Gon said that he will find Anakin alone. Anakin is his failure, and he must be the one to correct it. This meant that Yoda and Obi-Wan would be going to fight Sidious together. Qui-Gon would go and speak with Padme Amidala, who he knew had a special relationship with Anakin, and Qui-Gon talked to Padme, telling her about the good that he saw in Anakin, how he refused to take down the children, and how he must be allowed to go with her to find Anakin. Padme would agree to this, and together the two of them would travel to the Mustafar system. Once on the lava planet, Anakin ran to hug Padme, telling her the galaxy can be theirs, when he saw Qui-Gon waiting for him. The old Jedi Master put his hands up in peace, but Anakin's fears of the Jedi killing Padme were completely reignited in this moment. He also thought Padme betrayed him by bringing Qui-Gon here, and in this moment of spiraling anger, he choked Padme. There was no rhyme or reason for this, just pure darkness poisoning Anakin as he choked Padme nearly to death. She fell to the ground, and Qui-Gon ignited his lightsaber. Anakin yelled at his former master that the Jedi failed him, that he failed him. Qui-Gon looked to his green blade, and he knew this was not the way. So he put it away, throwing it off of the platform, telling Anakin he will not fight him. He knows there is still good in him, and he needs to bring it out of him. And now Anakin ignited his blade, telling Qui-Gon that he will die. Qui-Gon began apologizing more to Anakin, telling his former student that he was wrong in so many different ways. He sees that now, but he told Anakin this is not the way. The darkness can never bring Anakin the answers he is looking for. Qui-Gon calmly asked Anakin what his mother would want from him, and this made Anakin even more angry, telling Qui-Gon that he should not speak about his mother. Qui-Gon did find out about her living on Coruscant after she died, and he was unable to help Anakin grieve. Anakin now approached Qui-Gon with anger, and he told his old master that today he would die. The light of the Jedi would fade away forever. As Anakin walked towards him, Qui-Gon still refused to fight his student. He was determined to save Anakin from the dark side, and if he had to sacrifice himself in order to do it, then so be it. Anakin finally reached Qui-Gon, and he stabbed forward, plunging his blade right into Qui-Gon's gut. Qui-Gon gasped, then smiled softly, saying goodbye to his student, and in Qui-Gon's dying moments, he used an old ancient power to show Anakin exactly what he needed to see. Qui-Gon fell to the ground, barely clinging to life, and as Anakin watched him fall, he heard a warm, familiar voice behind him. It was his mother. Qui-Gon was using Anakin's memories to show Anakin that what he was doing was wrong, and perhaps only his mother could show him this. In a moment of vulnerability, where Anakin killed his master, the man he saw as a father for so long, he was open to the light, and Qui-Gon was able to bring a memory out of Anakin, showing him his mother. Anakin turned around, feeling tears in his eyes, and telling his mother that she is nothing more than a memory. This isn't real. But Shmi touched Anakin's cheek, and said she is his memory, but Anakin is losing himself. Anakin was crying now, and he told his mother he doesn't know what to do. He's being pulled apart. Qui-Gon's teachings were forcing Anakin to be unable to leave the light behind. He couldn't finish the job in the temple. Shmi told Anakin that it's time for him to make a decision for himself, telling Anakin that he is powerful, but his power has gotten those that he loves killed, and it matters how he uses that power now. Shmi looked to Padme, nearly dead on the ground, and she told Anakin that there is still time to save her. Anakin said only his new dark powers can keep her alive, but Shmi said he knows that is not true. Shmi smiled once more, telling Anakin she loved him, before she faded away. And Anakin was left alone. Qui-Gon was dead, but Anakin decided he had to trust the memory of his mother. He let go of the dark and let back in the light, and in this moment, when Anakin accepted the light once more, the voice of Qui-Gon was able to come to him from beyond the living force. And he told Anakin they can save Padme together, but only if Anakin trusts in the light. Anakin said he does, and Qui-Gon guided Anakin to kneel next to his wife and begin using the Force to give her his own life force, healing her. Anakin poured his light into Padme, and her eyes opened back up. She looked up to Anakin, and Anakin apologized, telling Padme he will always love her. And then Anakin fell to the ground, dead. He gave Padme everything he had in order to make sure that she survives this childbirth, and Qui-Gon Jinn succeeded in his mission after death. Padme would mourn Anakin for a long time, and when she returned to Coruscant, Bail Organa was waiting for her with Obi-Wan and Yoda. Padme was informed by the two Jedi that Palpatine was killed by them, and Bail Organa has taken over as Chancellor, exposing all of Palpatine's secrets to the Senate. The two Jedi took Sidious down. Palpatine would go into labor, and she would survive rather easily, somehow feeling the presence of Anakin around her, like he was still here, watching over them. The Republic and the Jedi Order would begin rebuilding, and the ghost of Qui Gon would guide Yoda and Obi-Wan into finding themselves once more, and finding more Jedi across the galaxy, while Padme began raising Luke and Leia on Naboo with her family. It was a new era, and soon the twins would begin Jedi training under a surviving, rebuilding Jedi Order. And folks, that is our story for today. There's a few things I really wanted to focus on. One, just this angle as a whole. Qui-Gon in these stories where Qui-Gon survives, it's almost inevitable, right, that Anakin just doesn't turn to the dark side. But I thought, what if we really just take a different approach? And it may not be the most realistic approach, but I thought, how do we do it? Well, Qui-Gon just falls in line with the rest of the Jedi, because that's just how it kind of has gone with the rest of the Order. So that was the goal here, make him join the Council, have him fall in line, and ultimately have Palpatine's manipulations jump up to a new level, with him kind of turning Anakin on Qui-Gon, helping with his mother much more than the Jedi ever did, and yeah, ultimately just separating Anakin and Qui-Gon with Palpatine's manipulations. I thought it was a fun route, and then having Anakin come back, I think ultimately Qui-Gon would be the one to bring him back, using the power that Leia used in The Rise of Skywalker to show Ben Solo Han. So, wanted to incorporate that, so appreciate you guys. Let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.